All right. Well, welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the next installment of Pints with Ayre. We have some special guests here with us. We have Angela, Cardas Meredith, and Joshua Meredith from Cardas Cables. Thank you for joining us, you guys. This is a really special conversation coming in from a viewer that tuned in this last week. I got to give a quick shout out to Peter Wilhelm for suggesting this topic. So we're gonna go over just what kind of cables Ayre uses and why we use it, and obviously we use Cardas, and so we're gonna dive into that. But I think before we go into that, we should talk a little bit about what we're drinking. And since you're our guest, what are you two drinking?
I'm kind of a little bit on the lowbrow side today. So I generally gin and tonic is generally my favorite thing, but I decided I wasn't going to be fancy at 3 PM. And so I have a twisted tea, which I'm drinking out of my Cardas pint glass.
Yes, right on. And those pint glasses are available on the Cardas website, maybe?
Probably.
Yeah, it might be on our merch site, and I have mixed feelings about them. They don't handle the dishwasher well, so I've kind of not promoted them. They're the same company I've used for every generation of pint glass, but for some reason, the most recent batch, you throw them in the dishwasher, and the printing literally streaks. And complained to the company. They're like, "Oh, we'll send you another batch." That one, same thing. So I'm like,
we have boxes and boxes.
Right, we're more likely to give them away with a slip of paper that says hand wash only.
I don't dishwash these.
They don't have the same warranty that Cardas Cables have, which is lifetime. And I feel like I'm kind of cheating, but I've been not drinking lately. And this is a Athletic Brews Free Wave non-alcoholic hazy IPA, also in a Cardas pint glass.
Awesome. I think some of our viewers would appreciate that.
Sure. Yeah, for what it's worth, I mentioned to a friend of mine that I thought maybe I'd cut back a little bit on drinking, and it's not like I've dedicated myself to it and I have no pride in it or investment in it. But he said, "Have you ever heard of Athletic Brews?" And I was like, "No." And I tried it, and I'm like, "This would be good even if I was actively drinking." So,
yeah. I think there might be another series coming up soon where we just enjoy some tea or some coffee or something.
No, I'm very pro drinking. I'm not like one of these people who's like, "Oh, you give up that stuff." It's I'm a huge, that's one of the things I thought, I'm not too much into getting drunk anymore. I'm beyond that part of my life, but the one thing I would miss would be a hoppy craft beer. And there is a number of good ones. This isn't the only good one. There's a number of good ones out there.
Yeah, and aside from Colorado, you guys are in a great spot for microbrews too.
Yeah. Oregon's got a lot of great breweries, even near us, which is in the middle of nowhere, like she said.
Well, Ariel, you want to give a little intro on what we're sipping on today?
Sure. So we are probably the closest brewery to us right now is this brand new place, Fritz Family Brewing. They're right here in Niwot, Colorado. They've been open for less than a year, I believe. And they're primarily German style brews, and I've been really impressed with their stuff. So Jake brought us, was it Power Walker? It's an IPA in my Cardas pint glass.
That was a glass
that last week.
That was a glass that could go in the dishwasher.
That would go in the dishwasher.
Yeah, well, I hand wash it anyway, so I don't know about that. Every week. So yeah, anybody who might have noticed, I was drinking out of this glass last week also.
Nice. That's my favorite of the Cardas pint glasses.
Excellent. I don't remember where I got it. I don't remember if it was already with Ayre or maybe I got it at one of the trade shows.
Probably.
I have a large collection of merch. I've got a bunch of the coasters here and you name it.
The Cardas coasters?
Yeah, several of a couple different versions, I believe.
Yeah, we're constantly doing. We just ordered some new ones for Valentine's Day.
Awesome. I love it.
I've got a couple fun images to share. Oh, this is reversed, but yeah, this is kind of a good view of just how close these guys are to us. I mean, we're cut out a little bit, but yeah, they're in our backyard, and they're really over this way. Yeah, it's a really fun place. Ariel and I have been kind of heading over here to do some brainstorming and product development meetings and just kind of get our gears in line here, but yeah, they're very German themed type of beer, and small family operation. I'm gonna get out of the family picture, but these we got Corey and his lovely wife and kid here. So Corey's been brewing since '92, and he's worked for like Tommy Knocker Brewing and Snake River Brewing. He spent about 17 years at Snake River.
Would he have been old enough to drink in 1992?
Right? I know. Look at this guy.
He looks younger than me, and I wasn't.
Yeah.
Well, long history of brewing, but yeah, very much a small family operation, and
Yeah.
nothing but good vibes over there. Really,
Yeah.
really fun.
When Angela and I moved to Bandon, the first culture shock I experienced was there were no nearby breweries. And about a year later, they opened one in Coos Bay, which is about 25 miles north of us. And I remember knowing it was going to happen and being anxious about, I hope it's good. And it turned out to be great. It's called Seven Devils. And then a few years ago, somebody opened one just down the hill from us. And it's actually pretty good too, called Bandon Brewing. So we finally have some decent breweries around here. But when we moved here, there was not even an indecent one. There was nothing. Even though the microbrewery revolution was long since started in Oregon. It was, where we had lived before, they were all over the place. But the southern Oregon coast just didn't have anything until really just about 5 or 6 years ago.
Now, I just want to point out in that photo behind you there, Jake, they've got their little shelf with a little record collection. They have a turntable and a little stereo set up there that they play on frequently.
So we have a cidery here now called Bandon Rain, and they have a little tasting room across from the cheese factory, and they have a hi-fi set up there too. So we talked to them when they were opening up. We talked to them about their sound and all that stuff.
The acoustics of their room, which wasn't very good at first.
Yeah. Look at these rooms. No breweries or bars have there.
Yeah.
There's an Irish restaurant downtown that when they first opened up, you couldn't have a conversation. The acoustics were so bad. And George, he kind of lectured the owner, like, you got to put this on the ceiling here and that on the ceiling here. And the guy went for it. And then he covered it all with Irish flags, or, I don't know,
soccer flags.
Yeah, things that look Irish. And so basically underneath each one is a nice sound panel, all the difference in the world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a cool idea, actually. Well, I'm drinking my beer from an Ayre pint glass, and those are available on our web shop. That was quite a challenge. So hopefully some of you go out and buy some of those for us, because it took a long time to get that web page built.
And they are laser etched, so they are very dishwasher safe.
Yeah.
Like the good stuff. All right. Well, yeah. So that's what we're drinking. We've got Fritz. Fritz is awesome. We love them. So yeah, we want to talk about cables and what we use. Boom, look at all that copper.
Look at that. It's bigger than you.
So I think to get the understanding of this, though, it would be cool to kind of know a little more about kind of George. And I think a lot of the initial foundings of Cardas seem to be inspired kind of by like the golden ratio. Is there do you have any recollection of kind of when George, maybe for Angela, do you have any recollection of when George was really kind of starting to get into that, or was that before your time? Or
it was, he's all the way back to when he worked for the telephone company. He was working on all the transmission problems for that. He helped do all the audio technical stuff for the 1984 Olympics. And then it was 1986, I think, when he finally got into his own with Cardas. So so it's been a really long time, but he's always been that way. Ever since, as long as I can remember, he tried to take something and make it better. So he raced go-karts in the 70s and had his own line of racing fuel. And then with the telephone company, there's still some technology that he helped develop for switches that they still use today. And so
as far as, and this is, I wasn't there for it, but I've talked with him extensively about this, and that is that the golden ratio thing goes back to even his racing days. He used to build his own heads for engines and exhaust systems with him and a guy named Mike Culver, who's passed away a few years ago, but he was the machinist who did most of the Cardas parts. And he also was George's machinist with engines. And they would do golden ratio sizing between different pipes for the exhausts and valve heads, or what, all the stuff. If they could make it golden ratio, they would. And some, you know, as far as what George would tell you, everything he did worked so good they've made it out illegal. So sometimes it's like, okay, you know, that's kind of what a guy will tell you, you know, when he's, you know, like, you know what I did? They made it illegal because it was so good. But I believe it because it worked so well with cable that, you know, he was doing things that gave him an unfair advantage, and it always went back to the golden ratio in one way or another.
Yeah, definitely seemed like he was obsessed with every little detail that
Yeah.
possibly could be. And Charlie Hansen with Ayre was very much the same way. Charlie, I think, was into the golden ratio since maybe the Avalon days, maybe. But Ariel might be able to give more of a history lesson on that.
No, not really. I don't know. I don't know the impetus for it, and it could have very well have been his discussions with George. I'm sure Charlie's obsession with the golden ratio, as far as the as far as our like chassis dimensioning and you name it. I'm willing to bet that came from George. But
Yeah,
I don't know.
They
I don't know
definitely
the
had a
story.
special bond. They still, I mean, George will still bring up when they went to Mexico, God, it was 80s, I think, for a solar eclipse.
Oh
And
wow.
and they definitely had some sort of mind melding experience. But they had definitely had a special bond.
Yeah, they really did.
That's cool. Well, yeah. So I know we use the golden ratio in some of our design work, more specifically, I think with chassis design, but you know, subsequently we get it internally too with you guys on our stuff. So yeah, details between those guys. Like, so it's, I guess, like some examples, because you know, Peter was asking what we use in our equipment, and I didn't think this would zoom in as far. Let's try that. So this is old school MXR amplifier, our first generation. So this guy could be upgraded, but you know, we have the two pair, or the one pair, or the twisted strand of 11.5 or 11 gauge wire in here, and I believe that one's got a special coating on it, correct? Do you guys?
That has got a that's off the special Ayre only spool of that, because that's a twisted pair of conductors with a jacket that has to be a jacket of the right thickness to fit in your chassis. That I think it's a thinner jacket, because the standard jacketing material, which is easier for us to do, is ever so much thicker, and most people don't care.
Right.
But since you guys have to fit in that channel, it's like you get the special stuff and nobody else can have it, but it's otherwise available in a very similar looking product as the I think it's the 2x11?
Yeah.
Yeah. So the 2x11 with the red jacket, which is a very popular product for us in general, for speaker manufacturers and electronics manufacturers. But you guys get the special thin jacketed stuff.
Nice.
Yeah, thank you for doing that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, we use like every single power amplifier. The connection from the output stage to the speaker post is always a in any of our higher power stuff, it's always the 11 gauge. Some of our smaller products, it was the 15 gauge.
Yeah.
And then we use whenever there's any audio signal between boards, we always use the 20.5 gauge, either 2 conductor or 3 conductor between boards. It's just a given. You don't use anything else.
Yeah, so on that note, I think this is the 15 gauge wire up here for our speaker wire run. This is actually the inside of a forthcoming product for us. This is a new power amp coming up. So it's kind of a prototype unit right now, but oops, there's the back. Don't kill me, Ariel. There. But yeah, so we have a brand new power amp that's on the verge of releasing here, but all Cardas wiring internal, and that's our 15 gauge speaker wire run right there. Just a nice short easy run there, and we try to minimize, you know, as much of our cable runs and the amount of cable that we're using for signal integrity. And yeah, it's been great product to work with.
I like how you guys angled the binding post on the back of that, because the speaker cable is going to go down normally, probably to the floor. And that's the angle that it's going to go at. So you're even stressing the conductors of the cable less. And it also has kind of a stylish look too. So
Yep.
Yeah, kind of
Yep.
keeps. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, that was another Charlie invention as far as that angling, and I think it might have came from a product that we had dual pair of binding posts on. It's like, well, like there's not enough room to do them this way or that way. So, well, if we angle them, then they can kind of coexist on one side of the chassis pretty well. And that has the benefit that they lay nicely externally as it runs across the floor.
because the speaker cable generally is kind of heavy, it's going to hang no matter what.
Absolutely.
So might as well just kind of give it the right angle to begin with.
Yep, works
Yeah.
great.
Yeah, and those binding posts are a lot of fun. I mean, I'm learning more and more about these every day, it seems, because yeah, it seemed like there's a lot more well thought out design elements to this than I would have expected. And like one thing that Ariel brought up to me just a day or two ago was that these binding posts, they don't have any threading on them.
Right. Yeah, it's
On the actual electrical contact.
signal path. There's no threads in the signal path. I often think, and maybe we should just do a magazine ad that's just that. It would be kind of funny to not feature a marquee cable, but to be like, here's a part. Because I sometimes think this binding post is so good that the only reason you don't see it on some equipment is because the manufacturer doesn't know about it. Because nobody who knows about it wouldn't prefer it.
Yeah.
And so it would be funny to do a big, big advertising campaign for binding post.
Yeah, and I guess my text is reversed here, but yeah,
No, it's good.
Not to us.
Not to us.
oh
No.
Yeah.
That's just for you.
So yeah, so there's no threading, and then the other bullet point that stood out to me was it's got like a real minimal amount of metal involved in it too. So I guess would you be able to, would you or Ariel want to expand on why like the no threading thing is of importance for some of our viewers?
I know that, I've talked to George about this, and you get eddy currents in the transmission of a signal. And these binding posts, they're pure copper, they're smooth, they're plated with the silver and rhodium that we do on everything. And they're minimal. Even in your picture there, it shows the long shaft version of that post, which really is barely necessary for anybody. Most of the time people are using the short shaft version, which is even minimizes the material even more. Because this is a post, normally a long shaft binding post would be for going into a fixed speaker cabinet where maybe the binding post is mounted to a piece of wood. On this particular binding post, you could even use a short shaft in that application. So for whatever reason, we have a photograph of the long shaft version, but the short shaft version is just as good, if not better.
Yep. Agreed, yeah.
Right on. Oh, I keep flipping back and forth, but I just thought of another thing, but so these little arrows right here, they're indicating that we can convert these to banana, and I think even a lot of our users are maybe not aware that that's what those are there for.
That's correct. There's two relatively new things that Brian and I kind of modified with a production run of these several years ago that we've continued to do. One of them, we had a Trenner and Fredel, which is a speaker manufacturer in Austria, gave us the idea that the plus and minus signs ought to be on both sides of that piece.
Thank you.
You're welcome, and you can thank them. We're like, you realize that's going to take another mold, and those aren't cheap, but okay. But for obvious reasons, that way, regardless of what side you're looking at, up, down, left, right, you can see the polarity. And one of us had the idea, we've always told people, if you want to use bananas, you can drill a hole in just the right place. Why don't you send it to us and we'll do it for you? And now we're like, you know what? If we put that into the mold, anybody with a 4mm drill bit can put the hole where it's supposed to be. And by not sending it out with that hole, it can be CE or whatever, European approved, because they're not trusted to handle bananas without accidentally shoving it into their Schuko outlet. I think they could do it, but the Euro people don't think that their people won't do that.
Right. Yeah. No, it's a really cool part that at first when I saw it, I was like, that's different. But as I started to learn more about it, I'm like, whoa, there's a lot of why to us using that. And Ariel and I had just done a listening test recently where, you know, we were comparing kind of an input switching chip in a product, but that test was really eye-opening for me to realize that you know, the input stage, just that first initial contact and kind of that first entry point for the signal kind of into whatever system it's going into, seems to make a really big difference. So yeah, the binding posts are part of this for us. You know, in the so cables aside and binding posts aside, there's another really critical Cardas component that we use in everything that we do, and it's cut off, but we have we use our special Cardas solder everywhere in every product.
It could almost exist just as a solder company. I am shocked at how much solder we ship out the door. It seems to become more popular with every year.
Wow.
It's so good. We've had people that you know, it's a proprietary blend, and once in a while somebody will get grumpy that we're not sharing the recipe, but it's a recipe, you know. It's and it was not easy to arrive at. And once in a while, somebody would be like, well, I need to know what it is, or I can't use it. And I'll be like, let me send you a couple feet of it. And they're like, all right. And invariably, they'll be like, okay, this stuff rocks. Send me 50 or whatever. You know, it's I guess I don't care what's in it. It's just that good.
Most of it is us just trying to say you're fine.
Yeah, you're fine. Believe it. You don't need to know. You know, you don't get to know, but you can have some and you're going to like it.
Yeah. No, we even make sure, you know, we use it almost universally in-house, but we've also provided to our contract manufacturer board house and so that on specific boards of ours, we insist that they use that solder for their final through hole assembly, to make sure that everything on that board is done that way.
Nice.
Yeah, and I guess, you know, we can't probably go over the formula too much, but we kind of know the ingredients, right? I mean, it kind of says it right on there. So we have
lead, copper, and silver. And George and I were just talking about this, just a couple of months ago. He and Darcy were in town. We're having dinner at their house here in Bandon. And I don't know how the conversations always go into work. And we were talking about the solder, and he was talking about early in the days of Cardas Audio. He was trying everything, different connectors, different solder. He was trying all the silver solders that were on the market at the time, and nothing was quite what he was looking for, and realized that it had to do with being the blend. You know, we're connecting copper wire to silver plated conductors. So you need a blend that is enough silver to blend with the silver and enough copper to blend with the copper, and the right eutectic blend where everything melts and solidifies uniformly. And you get that nice shiny glistening solder bead when you're done. And he worked with a British metallurgist to come up with the formula, and ran with it ever since.
I think someone call that an alchemist. This just sounds like magic, what you guys do.
Right.
Metallurgists are real.
Yeah, I know. It's a really great product. I'm good enough at soldering, but it makes me feel like I'm a pro. It's like, it's easy to work with. It sounds amazing. It's a fantastic product. And then we use the solder flux as well to kind of make sure everything's flowing nice and smooth. But
use the bar solder too. We have a solder pot that we do various processes with, including whenever we have to terminate our own wire, which some of that you guys do a lot for us these days.
Yeah, but if you guys are doing the 11.5, I don't know if we pre-tin those for you or not, but if you're doing it,
generally, yes.
You kind of need a solder pot if you're doing something.
Oh, yeah.
You can get by with a Litz wire on the smaller gauges, but 11.5 is...
Yeah, you can. I don't like to. It's not fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's so much easier in the pot.
Yeah.
Did we talk about the Litz? I'm sorry, or maybe we did.
Yeah.
No, we haven't really dived into that.
Yeah, that's really cool to me. Could we talk about the Litz coding that you guys do?
Yeah, I didn't know what that meant until I started here at Cardas Audio. So I have to presume that there's probably a lot of people who aren't familiar. A Litz wire is a multi-stranded conductor in which each strand, and it doesn't have to be golden ratio, all of ours are, but every strand has an enamel coating on it, a single polynylon in most cases, as the case with ours, prevents crosstalk between the strands. And what's especially nice with a copper wire is that it prevents the oxidation of the strands. So there's a variety, those are just two of the big benefits. There's a variety of benefits to a Litz wire. The downside is you have to pre-tin it. We have a video, it's on our YouTube channel, that we take a 9-gauge conductor, strip the jacket off so you see pretty copper wire sticking out, but we put a continuity tester on it and it doesn't react. It looks like it ought to, but it doesn't, because the enamel coating is preventing the conductivity. So you have to prepare it by tinning it, which, you know, probably the same thing you guys do. What we do is we dip it in Litz, or I'm sorry, we dip it in flux and then dip that into a solder pot. Each gauge takes a certain, you know, a bigger gauge takes longer, a smaller gauge takes shorter. You can do it too long and then you can actually damage the copper. But you know, the Litz, the coating puffs off, and then you have and then you take it, you know, a towel and you wipe it off. It's shiny, it's pretty, but it looks silver now. And then you have a tin conductor that is functional.
Yep.
And then you can attach it to something.
Yep.
So it's an extra step. We've had people flame us on the internet saying this this wire's crap, you can't even use it. It's like, well,
you skipped a
you
step.
got to know how to use
Yeah,
it.
that's right.
You skipped an important step.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just think that's such an important thing to touch on, because I think a lot of people don't realize that, you know, these cables, whether they're in a jacket or not, they're not in a vacuum. And so, you know, the copper over time is going to you know, oxidize and degrade to an extent. So, you know, the
copper oxide is a bad conductor. Silver oxide's fine, it's not pretty, but copper oxide makes a wire go bad, which is why you see like the kind of speaker wire my dad used, which is just a parallel twin and kind of a opaque jacket.
Yeah.
And it eventually you can see through that jacket that it turns green.
Yep.
And Cardas cable never, you know, one of the reasons we can offer a lifetime warranty is it won't oxidize. You know,
It's not going to go bad.
It's easy to offer a lifetime warranty if you almost never have to honor it.
Right.
Yeah, well, I mean, when you're buying equipment at the level that we like to deal with typically in the hi-fi world, I mean, you kind of want to know that your statement piece is going to have that statement sound for a long period of time. And
right.
Yeah, corroded copper is gonna
and the thing of it is, things that go bad over time go bad slowly over time. And if you're a paranoid, like I think a lot of audiophile types like myself are, you know that every day it gets a little worse. You know, there's a point where it becomes a lot worse, but that means that every day it became a little worse. So if you have an uncoated copper cable, you know that every day it's getting a little worse. Now, 20 years from now, it's going to be used less, but every day between now and then, it became one day worse, and that can drive an audiophile mad.
It's true. It's true.
It's true. And they're right there.
If we aren't already.
Right. So let's not talk about tubes and vinyl then.
Exactly. That's why, I mean, I like solid state because I leave my stuff on all the time. I don't have the patience to warm something up.
Well, yeah, we can handle that. Ariel, is there any other Cardas stuff that we use that I'm not thinking of, or any other?
We've used Cardas RCAs since day one. Ever since the original V3, we had the right angle Cardas, the straight versions. We've used the rhodium plated Cardas RCAs for a long time.
Input jacks.
Yeah.
Input and output. I mean, we still prefer balanced connections, but we definitely, for legacy, and convenience, we offer RCAs. We would love not to, but we do. And when we do,
the parts thing is a big part of our business. From we sell the cable connectors, RCAs and XLRs and whatnot, banana plugs and power plugs to DIY people and even other cable manufacturers. But we also make a lot of parts that we don't use, and one of those would be like female. We use female RCAs on our adapters, but in mass we don't use enough to justify making them if we couldn't sell them.
Right.
And So we make a lot of connectors that go on equipment.
Yeah.
And that's a huge part of Cardas Audio.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So you guys provide us RCA to XLR adapters that we sell. You make the wood blocks for us, the golden cuboid wood blocks with our laser engraved logo on them.
Yep.
Oh,
Yeah.
Henry.
Which we helped. I forget what it was. I think I tried to make one of the first versions with the V blocks, and I have permanent
Oh, no.
permanent scars on my fingers from an accident in my wood shop at home, trying to work on those.
Yeah, there's a lot of danger involved in the manufacture of those. Luckily, we do have that handled off-site, and we do do the laser part, which as long as you don't look into the laser, which would be kind of uncomfortable on your neck, you're fine.
Yeah.
But we laser our other building over there. That was one of the first things I started when I started at Cardas Audio. Basically, I was here for a few days, and George was around, and I was like, "What do you want me to do?" And he's like, "Oh, do what you want." Okay, but it's basically he wanted me to learn the business, and one day he says, "Come over here, I'm gonna show you something," and he shows, here's a laser engraver, and here's how you do it, and I realized at that point, oh, okay, I guess this is going to be one of the things I do, is operating the laser engraver.
The 1986 computer.
Yeah, and it runs off this old computer, and I'm glad I handed that off to somebody else a while back.
Yeah. We have offered a line of our own Ayre interconnects before, and that's been manufactured by you guys. It was a unique design that was collaborated with Charlie and George at the time, and so it's certainly unique from any of the Cardas offerings. So it's
right. It wasn't exactly like anything. It wasn't just a rebranded version.
Right.
I'm aware of it, but it would have, had it been in our product line, it would have been towards the upper end. Yep. It was a good cable.
Yeah, it was a really good cable. Yeah, we had a lot of it. There's one other thing I'm forgetting about. So we got those adapters jacks. I just had it and I just lost it. There's one other thing we use. I forget what it is.
RCA caps.
RCA. You got a cap.
No, we don't use those. We have a set that we use occasionally. Anyway, if I think of it, I'll jump in.
Yeah, stew on that. I just realized too, another thing that we do is we do use it in our demo room right behind me too. I've got Clear Beyond stuff for our demo room, and it just takes that level of synergy even further if what's connected outside is the same quality of copper as what's inside, I would say. So that's probably one of the big reasons that we use that, but these are just amazing cables. The Clear Beyond, they're some of the best that I've ever experienced myself. So,
and that's a power cable there. I remember I came on board at Cardas Audio knowing a little bit about the high-end audio world. I had worked at a stereo repair shop with a guy who, back when I was in high school, who told me that high-end audio existed, which was news to me at the time. Yeah. And it's like somebody, like if you didn't know about exotic cars, but you liked cars, and somebody says, "Have you heard of Ferrari?" No. Oh my God. It was like that. Like he was telling me, and I remember him saying, "There's even fancy cables." Wow. Like it just blew my mind, which makes it funny that I'm here now. But it all made sense to me. I mean, like anything that can be made better can be made better, and you should be able to perceive it. And usually you can. But I never understood, people can be real skeptical about the power cables, but man, they can be dramatically immediate. Like sometimes you have to sit with an interconnect for a while and realize the details you've gained. Mm-hmm. But man, you plug a power cable into the back of an amplifier and it's like, whoa, what did you do?
Yeah, it's shocking sometimes.
I think a lot of that has to do with just the amount of power required for bass frequencies, and I think bass response with a good power cable is one of the first things that people notice, and then some of the extra detail kind of reveals itself from there. But
yeah, I think that's right. The impact really hits you quickly. The lowering of the noise floor. I have a guitar amp at home that was terribly noisy, and I was like, I wonder if I could throw a Cardas cable on there. And I mean, the cable would cost more than the amp. And it was like instantly the noise was gone. I'm like, I told Brian, I came into work the next day, like, guess what?
It works.
It worked. But yeah, the power cable thing is surprisingly. What I was going to say is we have a dealer in Texas, Plano, Texas, who starts customers out with a Cardas power cable. He's like, take this home. Let me know what you think. And he says they almost never bring it back. It's like it becomes part of their system, and then they start buying other stuff.
Yeah, very cool. Very cool. Well, Ariel, unless you thought of that one other thing that we use. which-
No, I haven't.
Yeah, I know we use a lot from you guys, and it's,
Put it in the comments below. Once you post
What
it.
about the irrational efficacious CD?
Oh,
Was
there you
that
go.
it?
So yeah, so our rational efficacious CD was produced in collaboration and with the blessing of George to use essentially what was the sweep record that George designed and produced many years ago. And so Charlie worked with him, and so and again with George and Cardas's blessing, we produced a digital version of that
Yeah.
we have on CD. I think we even at one point we had a download of it, but now we have cases of CDs of those that we offer. So yes, that which is again one of those things that, you know, it describes it perfectly in the title. Irrational but efficacious. Doesn't make any sense, but if you try it, it blows your mind. And it just doesn't make any sense.
And I'm glad you guys still have those, because we only do the vinyl version. So it's only analog. We do not offer a digital version of that. And sometimes people will ask us, like, can I get it on a CD or a download? And I've said to them, well, Ayre at one point had more or less the same thing available as a CD. So I hope, as long as you guys still have those,
Yep, we absolutely do. Yeah,
we do a lot of those, surprisingly, actually.
Yeah. Oh, we sell a lot of the records. We just during the pandemic thing, amongst many of the things that happened, is vinyl became scarce because either maybe people are buying a lot of records or whatever.
Well, there's also a plant that burned down.
Okay.
At some point too. There was
During
lots of
that
stuff
tumultuous
happening around us.
era in the recent past, getting records pressed became really difficult, and we were back ordering the frequency sweep record for months. And we finally, about a month or two ago, got the palette of the most recent pressing of the frequency sweep and burn in LP. That we blow through them. We had people just anxiously awaiting them.
Yeah. No, that is an absolutely indispensable tool we use whenever we do listening tests. When we listen to something and we change something, we touch a cable or we move a cable or we do anything, when we put something new in, first thing absolutely has to be run that sweep.
Yeah,
it makes a huge difference. If you've been listening through your system for a few days or weeks or heaven forbid months, and it just, you know, it's what you expect maybe, or some sounds off, you play that 1 minute track and it is astounding what it does.
Yeah.
And again, it just doesn't make a lot of sense, but again, it kind of, my explanation is, you know, it brings everything back to center. It, you know, over time, you just kind of entropy, everything just kind of scatters. And so that sweep just kind of sweeps it back and gets it all back in line, back at zero, more or less.
Yeah.
And so it works. It just works.
It's surprisingly effective. Whether
Yeah,
it's analog or digital.
One thing that I kind of picked up coming into it pretty new, because I only discovered it this last year, but having kind of a recording engineering background, I'm used to looking at frequency response graphs or meters for instruments or even full mixes. And, you know, it could be especially a great tool for someone who listens to maybe the same kind of music all the time. Because if you've got someone who's maybe listening to like singer-songwriter stuff, maybe not as bass heavy, maybe more mid-range kind of focused, you know, that there's a lot of frequencies that are not seeing activity in your system, you know, and so you've got this tool to really, it's like stretching before going for a run or something, you know, it's like you're getting the full audible band of sound kind of activated within your system, your speakers, everything. And it just kind of primes it for a full responsive frequency response, you know.
That's technology, the stretching before a run, because when you stretch before a workout, you're stretching your muscles and tendons beyond what you're going to do during that workout, so that the narrow bandwidth of your workout fits within that long stretch you did. So probably about right on with that.
Yeah, well, that makes the most sense for my brain, but I know that there is some electrical benefits to sweeping that frequency range through your equipment as well. But
refers to it as degaussing, and so that's a part of it as well. If perhaps technically that's the biggest part of it, I don't know.
yeah, no shortage of amazing tools that you guys provide. I'm very thankful for our relationship already and like what you guys provide us, but just like the industry in general. I don't know if hi-fi would be, or just audio. I know you guys do a lot of the pro and the musician world too. I know that just audio in general wouldn't be where it is without what you're doing, with what George started. And I mean, it's yeah, very commendable. I appreciate all the effort you guys put into every little product and piece to the audio world.
Well, thanks. You know, helping musicians was kind of George's first thing, but you can't make a successful business selling guitar cable. Those guys don't have any money.
Yeah.
But you can make an awesome guitar cable and give it to a guitar player.
It's true. Well, there's also something really nice, I think, to know that your sound, what you've done was imprinted on a recording too. I know that I know Ariel and I have talked about interest in contributing some more hardware that can be on the creative side of things for musicians. So that might be something from us down the road.
Yeah, it's really cool to know that we're at the beginning of so many of these recordings that we hear when we're on the road, when we go to these trade shows and, you know, all these sorts of things. I can say, I know the studio, you know, they'll say, oh, this producer, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, yeah, our cables are in that studio. I know that. Yeah. And that's one of the ones, I think it's Clear Reflection is one of the ones that gets used a lot. It's our second, so it's like the second one down from our very, very top tier. But musically, it's one of those, it's one of our cables that connects most with musical people.
Yeah. Well, I guess one thing I'm kind of curious about, is there new product categories on the horizon that Cardas thinks that they'll be breaking into at all that could be shared, or is there anything fun and new on the horizon?
I don't see us breaking into a new category. We would tell you if we were working on something outside of what we do, and we're not. We did recently release a headphone cable that took us a long time to get out, and we move at such a glacial pace that we're still basking in the glow of that. Everything else is either on the drawing board or still kind of like in the idea stage right now. But we're going to ride that headphone cable wave for a good few months before we worry about too much other news.
Right, and that was your first experience, right, with Cardas, was the headphone cable thing. We were radio disc jockeys. Here's the headphone cable right there. But that's where he had the Sennheisers, those ones with the yellow foam.
Yeah, 514s.
514s or something. And then my dad had got me Sennheiser 600 HD 600s, I think. Yep. And then that's where the headphone cable originally came from. So so much of our stuff really comes from fulfilling a need. Someone says they need something, and that's George was like, I can do that.
Right.
Yeah. You still make the power outlets?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's something that we don't obviously currently use in any of our products, but again, it's another kind of product category you guys are in.
Yeah, that, I guess you could say that is the most recent product category that we entered, was that, even though it goes back a few years, that took a long time of development. And the only reason we developed it is we wanted to make a power strip. Cardas made a power strip about 20 years ago, but it used a outlet, but not a Cardas outlet. This time around, we wanted to make our own, and developing that's a long, tedious process because it's kind of a complicated connector, you know.
Sure.
Or a banana, real easy. It's one thing, but a power outlet is quite a thing. Once we finished that, we were like, well, I guess anybody can use this at home, and so we're selling them, you know, as as upgrades for that, but also we put it in our own
And
our own power
there's
strip.
other manufacturers who use it in their power strips too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, same thing. I mean, it's all just multifaceted, spread things around. So
Yeah, yeah, I know, I know that we, I don't know if you guys are familiar with our L5. We made a kind of a power line conditioner, and I know that we needed that before you guys released it, and so we had to come up with our own solution at the time, and I know you guys came out with that shortly after we were already producing ours. So I definitely regret that, because it was buying one direct from you guys already done, rhodium plated, would have been so much easier than what we did.
it was a long process.
I believe
Yeah.
it, because getting ours made was,
Yeah.
not easy.
Well, there
And
might be a new power product in our horizon here for us, I think. So we'll get another
We've
opportunity.
got an outlet for you.
It's really good.
Yeah,
too.
yeah.
If
Yeah,
you want to
sold.
make one from syrup, we've got that one too.
Sold,
Well,
As long as you can have any color you want, as long as it's blue.
okay, good.
is that a Cardas thing too? The blue? Is there a story to that?
Yeah, hashtag Cardas Blue.
Cardas cables, if you look at the history of Cardas cables, it's been a rainbow. And
Yeah.
I think George just likes things that stand out, and decided when he did the clear product line, that clear and blue kind of go together. And so that has, and now that the clear product line, as opposed to the previous products, I don't believe we've ever had a product that was as fleshed out. And so, there's entry level clear, there's flagship clear, and several stages in the middle. And with the exception of clear reflection, the anomaly of being black, everything's blue. And so now we associate blue with the good stuff. So we're gonna make an outlet. Of course, it's gonna be blue. And that's the story.
Copper and blue are my two favorite colors.
Yeah, copper and blue, they go well together.
All right. Well, I swear this is one of my last questions, but who's doing a lot of the development and design work for you guys these days? Is it kind of you, Josh, or you and Brian, or a team thing?
Reflection was the first thing when we first got here. So that was our first working together with George as a team. That was the first product line that we got out the door, and we've been kind of filling that in as we went along. But like Josh said, it's like George has laid the foundation and really has gotten to the point where we'll just kind of say something, so and so says they need a cable that's going to do this. What do you think we should do? And he will really help us work through. Well, what do you think? What would you do? And yeah, that's his biggest question right now is, what do you think you should do? And we'll say something, and most of the time we're right, I think.
Every time, just
right.
he agrees.
Right. And sometimes he'll be like, well, no, you don't want to do that because this and blah blah blah, whatever. But yeah.
The Clear Beyond XL is our flagship power cable, and Brian and I really worked closely with George on that and kind of shepherded that whole project. And we all contributed ideas. He contributed a really fascinating, simple yet genius ground filtration system that's built into the cable. And we got it, we tested it, it was great. We were sending it to people, they were gushing about it. And George, he's so understated. He was here one day and I was like telling him how much people are loving this cable and how great it is. And he says, "What are you gonna do next?"
We still are
Like,
basking
come
in this.
on. We haven't sold one of these yet. Let's be
Yeah, I definitely wish I still had that sounding board here, but we really miss Charlie in that regard right there. That's definitely miss that creative spark that he provided us.
Well, we've got, I think, a pretty good handle on what Charlie wanted, and it sounds like you guys have a great handle on what George wants, and like Cardas is in it.
We'll have conversations where I'll be the one who says, "Well, what would George do?"
Yeah.
That seems like a good idea, but what would George say or whatever? And it's like that always refocuses the conversation.
Yeah, that's always in the back of my head. Same thing. Like, well, what would Charlie do? Yeah.
And George, he's alive and well. He's good. He's living the good life, but nonetheless, he's not always physically here to say what he would say. So I feel like I'm the one who's like, yeah. But what would George say about that?
I've come to respect Charlie so much that's just always like, even before a question arises, I'm like, what does Charlie want? What does he want in this? And that's kind of, I think, why Ayre is going to be able to continue with just carrying on Charlie's core values and everything that he wanted to see happen, you know, because we really we believe in his way of thinking, and it sounds like you guys are behind George too. So I look forward to continuing on this awesome co-creative relationship with you guys. And just as a reminder, if they can do cabling for us, they can do it for you. So reach out to Josh if you guys need any special projects or OEM solutions for your product.
Absolutely.
But I think that's all I have. Ariel, anything else we need to bring up to educate our airheads on Cardas cables and how we use them?
No, I don't think so. I can't think of anything else. We covered a lot there.
Yeah, we'll have to have you guys back to just dive in deep about Myrtle blocks and the IBEs some more.
We could do a whole show about Myrtle blocks.
Yes. Yeah, I think so. But I think that concludes my questions and our episode for Pints with Air. Really, really appreciate you two taking some time to hang out with us, and it's definitely
Fine.
hey, cheers. I think it was probably our most special episode yet, and I hope you two have some wonderful time out of the office here, and we look forward to having you back. And let's have a great rocking year here.
All right.
Yeah, and really hope to see a trade show again really soon. We've been pretty quiet on that front recently, and
We're
we're
hitting
really planning to get out there soon. So see you in person real soon.
Yeah, I hope so.
All right, y'all. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful night.
Thanks,
All right,
you
thank
too.
you.
Wow, what a fun conversation that was with Angela, Cardas Meredith, and Josh Meredith. They really know their stuff. I hope you learned a lot about what they do, what we do, and what we do together to make amazing music happen. If you liked what you saw, give us a like, give us a subscribe, pop over to Cardas, give them a like and a subscribe, and check out the links in the description below for Cardas cables, Ayre Acoustics, and our friends at Fritz Family Brewing. If you're ever in Boulder and you want to visit Fritz, come stop by us first and maybe we'll go together. But until next time, enjoy the music and thanks for watching. See ya.